Hello guys, and welcome to my third race of round 2 of the Manufacturers Cup. Jumping straight into qualifying. We've actually moved up closer to the C driver rating, so we're against a lot better drivers, so there's going to be more points on the table, so that's going to be good. Got our first lap impeded a little bit, so we backed out of that one. Crossed the line with about 5 seconds to go left of qualifying, so lucky to get across in time. Purple first sector, and you can see we've got quite a few cars in front of us, so wanting to stay out of that chaos, but hopefully not getting held up by too many of them. As you see the Porsche go wide there, and we're going to carry our momentum through the exit of the corner. You can see this Renault going wide, so we make up a lot of time on him from that poor racing line, which is going to get us right onto the back of him, unfortunately. He's really slow out of the exit, so we don't have enough time to get out of his way. As we begin to gain on him again, and carrying a lot more speed through every corner than him. And he's just jumping around all over the place. As we try to go around the outside, we get run off into the wall a little bit, just not being able to follow that dry line. Now we've got that Porsche up alongside us again, so losing a lot of time racing with other cars this lap, but it is going to be faster than our first lap. As we hold a much tighter line than everyone else, getting forced into the wall a little bit by the Renault, I believe. Making our way into the tunnel now, and we're going to come across the line to do a 2:12.0, I believe that was, but still miles off the pace. If you've seen some of my last videos, you can see that most people are D driver rating. Now we've got a couple C driver rating in here, so it's going to make the race a lot more difficult, but definitely a lot more points on offer, so hopefully we can capitalise on that, make up lots of places, starting down a bit lower in the grid than we would have hoped, but a good opportunity to make up places and get some good points. If you haven't seen videos from the previous races, or even the first round, make sure you go back and watch them. This is my third out of 4 races at the Tokyo Expressway, before we head on to Autopolis, I believe, for next weekend, or maybe Nürburgring, I'm not sure. I think it's Autopolis this weekend, Nürburgring next weekend, that's the order. Anyway, moving on, you can see the Porsche in first with the Bend Motorsport Park livery, representing South Australia, good from him. There's me down in 11th, 5.5 seconds off the pace. So if we got a clean lap in, it might have been a little bit closer, but he was still very quick out in front. Hoping to make up a few positions off the start and stay out of some chaos into turn 1. So as we are about to get underway, getting right behind the McLaren with the windscreen wipers on, and getting straight past him, opting not to bump draft him up the straight. He was just moving a lot slower, and I'm going to be able to gain on the Ferrari and the Honda ahead. We are going to bump draft the Honda a little bit just to get us both past the Ferrari, who's going to switch back to the inside there, you can see, and dive down. It's going to force us a little bit wide, and we drop all those places. It's unfortunate. Somebody else trying to fly through in the Nissan, trying to get past. But after that start, we've actually dropped a position overall. You can see that Renault taking the same line he did in qualifying, which is going to put us all over the back of him, and he tries to go to the outside of McLaren, gets held up, and we just went straight into the back of him, sent spinning. I did a half decent job to save it, not go flying around even more, but we do have damage there as well. It's going to affect our performance. You can see just understeering into the wall. We actually got bumped from behind from that other Porsche who went flying through. But we're not too far away from the next couple of positions. Having a look around the outside of the next Porsche, he holds his position well, but we get a much better run down towards the bottom hairpin. See lots of cars making their way around. I've actually caught up to that Renault again, who, it wasn't really his fault, but ended up causing us to spin around. That's him with a penalty there. As we get past him and we get past the Alfa Romeo. So after the first lap, we are in the exact same position we started in, as we chase this McLaren down the straight and through the fast corners, and we're onto the back of him. He just outbrakes himself and meets barrier on the entry into that fast chicane, which is going to give us a free position. Moving on a bit later into lap 12, you can see this car ahead has, I think, 3.5 seconds of penalties. So we should be able to get past him. You can see how well the engine braking works. Down into that hairpin, we braked very late there, but still managed to make the corner. As we set off to try and gain a bit more, we're up into P9 now. Moving on a little bit later into lap 3, and we're setting some good pace. We're actually catching up with everybody once we get some clean air, and another penalty for the car ahead. So it looks like everybody's getting penalties from colliding with walls or colliding with other cars. So hopefully we can gain on all of them. Getting right up to the back of the Audi under braking. And towards the penalty line, we will be able to get past him as he serves his penalty there. We'll make our way into the tunnel for the end of lap 3, up into P8, so a decent effort so far. You can see the cars are just up ahead, and about halfway through lap 4, just a bit over, we have caught up to them. You can see them all battling, just trying to stay on the dry line so we don't drift wide at all like we did in qualifying. We get a much better exit going to the outside of the Porsche, who's going to go try to get past the Mercedes as well, who's latest on the brakes. We could stay past the Mercedes, trying to get past the Porsche as well, who just forced us into the wall on the exit, which is going to result in us getting a half-a second penalty, which is a bit disappointing since it wasn't our fault at all. We just got forced into the wall. But we'll just have to drive a bit better, as the Mercedes, who was driving next to us, peels off into the pits at the end of lap 4. So I thought it was a little bit early to pit, but we'll see how he does, as we are gaining on the 2 cars ahead on the slipstream of both of them. Having a look to the inside of the Porsche, it goes a bit wide. It hits the back of the Red Bull livery McLaren. And we do end up getting past the Porsche in the end. We're going to chase the McLaren through the fast chicane here, holding it flat to the floor the entire way through. Taking a little bit too much speed into the entry of the corner, which affected our exit quite significantly actually. Getting very close to the wall on the left hand side. You can see someone up there with a bit more of penalty than we do, and that might be 3.5 for the Ferrari, as the McLaren just gets onto the left hand side after getting on the wet part of the track, which is going to let us get past him up into P5 from P11. So pretty decent start. And you can see this is technically the battle for P2. So we are right in this race. P1's managed to pull a good gap on everyone else as we serve our penalty there. Gain a position from the Ferrari, but you can see the McLaren comes up alongside us. We managed to get in his slipstream and don't lose that much time at all. The Ferrari behind us came into the pits after lap 5. Probably is close to going into the pits. You can see that dry line, see that bar on the left hand side just dropping. So McLaren goes a little bit deep and we get alongside him and get the inside for the next corner. Drifting wide, just a little tap with the wall, almost getting spun round by the McLaren. Managed to keep the car pointing forwards. And we're going to chase him for a little bit here. By the way, if you guys want to see any different types of videos like F1 23 or maybe some F1 Manager, just drop what you want to see in the comments below so I can know what you want to see. As we come up behind the Corvette now, who's picked himself a half a second penalty, which he's going to end up losing a lot of time down the straight if he doesn't have a slipstream, so we should be able to get past him. It probably is the right time to come into the pits on this lap, as the Corvette gets very sideways. So yeah, probably good to come into the pits this lap, but I'll make the smart decision of trying to go to the outside of the Corvette, which is going to block off the pit entry. So we're going to have to do another lap, onto lap 7 now. Behind the Honda, I'm going to go to the inside and get straight past him, getting bummed a little bit. So we are up into the podium places now, with a few cars pitting as well. We get just ran straight into the wall from behind. Quite a few dirty drivers in this lobby, just using other people for braking to slow themselves down, which just didn't help our race at all. So on the end of lap 7, we're going to dive into the pits, get the hard tyres on. Now I could have stayed out and just kept the inters on the whole race, which could have resulted in a better position, but we'll have to see how we go on the hards as we come back out in P7 with, I think that's the Ferrari behind. He's going to be gaining on us with the full effect of the straight. You can see him pop up in the radar there, giving me a bit of bump draft. As we come into turn 1. So he pitted from behind us onto the hard tyres, so I've probably kept the same amount of time, and so I just understeer into the wall on the dry tyres, just getting the tyres the tiniest little bit on a wet patch. You can see how much effect it has on the race, so you got to be millimetre perfect throughout the entire race, especially onto these hard tyres. As we managed to keep ahead of the Ferrari for now, heading towards the hairpin, and you can see under braking I just get absolutely slammed into the barrier on the exit. You can see him in the radar, just did not apply the brake pedal whatsoever. He's going to pick himself up a 2-second penalty, so he's not actually going to gain any positions or any time from this, from forcing me off the road anyway. On to lap 11, so there's 2 laps to go now. We haven't had to deal with the Ferrari anymore, which is good. We're right up behind P6. The Porsche who we've met a couple times out on the track. And he just outbrakes himself, sends him out into the barrier, similar to what the McLaren did, I believe, earlier in the race. Just going to move us up into P6. Heading on, still setting better and better lap times, so we've definitely got the pace to be keeping up with these guys. So we see someone facing sideways, ghosting through them to move up into P5 onto the final lap now. P4 just ahead, and the podium isn't far ahead of him, so a podium could be on the cards here. It'll have to be a hell of a final lap. Or just trusting the car into every corner, late on the brakes, just a tiny little tap of the brake pedal through that corner, getting straight back on the throttle. You can see P3 there, not too far ahead. And as we get closer to P4, you can see just above him, he has a penalty there. I'm not sure how long it is, but we should be able to pass him with that. As we head into the final corner, 3.5 second penalty, so he must have been the one to cause the incident at turn 1. As we're definitely going to gain a place there. But the car in front of him, we're going to gain all the way to the line. But it's going to be a P4, which is a pretty decent effort from P11 against these higher rated drivers. We got within just over a second of P3, so not a bad effort. Having looked at the points table, we're going to get 23 points, so more points than our win in the previous episode. 7 positions raised through the race, so a decent finish for us. But make sure like, subscribe, comment, tell me what you want to see in future videos, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.